Welcome back to this week's episode of the Secret Lair MTG Arena Weekly Podcast. I'm Daniel Guajardo, and I'm joined here today by Steve Walsh. Steve, how is everything going?
I want to say good, but
I want you to say good.
Things. So
Things?
We'll get into it. There are good things, there are bad things.
All right, we got news here. So what should we start off with this the big announcement?
All right, yeah, let's start with to give you a breakdown of kind of what the show is going to be today. We'll go over the ban and restricted announcement that just came out, the ALCHEMY rebalancing, and the news out of Star City.
Sounds good.
So to start with, there was a ban and restricted announcement that came out on Tuesday. Everybody knew it was coming because Wizards said the week before when they did the Pauper ban restricted announcement that there was definitely going to be something changing at multiple formats, and they didn't lie, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So it starts with Standard. In Standard, 3 cards got banned. The big bad Alrund's Epiphany that everybody was very adamant about getting banned many months ago. See Brian Gottlieb's tweet like 5 months ago when it came out. But yeah, Epiphany got banned, Divide by Zero got banned, and Faceless Haven got banned.
I believe, well, from what I read or heard on something, Faceless Haven got banned preemptively to allow for the new set to shake things up a little better.
No, these all got banned together. Faceless Haven got, they all got, yeah.
Well, I believe what they said was they were banning it because the new set's coming out. They didn't want people just pretty much to go to mono white, mono green, all that stuff. At least that's what my understanding was.
You're saying, yeah, Faceless Haven wasn't busted, but if they ban the blue stuff, they have to take Faceless Haven out of the aggro decks, or they'll just take over the format.
Yeah, yep.
So to start, Alrund's Epiphany, slam dunk. This card should have been banned months ago. When people noticed it was a problem.
Too powerful.
Take an extra turn for 6 mana and make 2 birds, but also you can, copy it with Galvanic Iteration.
Yeah.
Which is super annoying. Divide by Zero is a bit of a surprise. I don't think anybody had this on their cards that are going to be banned bingo sheet.
No, like the weakest counter spell I've ever seen be banned.
Yes, possibly. Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah,
but
I'm 100% for this. It's weird because it's innocuous, but the reason I think that DBZ got banned is because it was way too versatile.
Yeah,
it just had so much play to it, plus the card that you get, it returning just everything. I think that if Divide by Zero hadn't gotten hit, then the Alrund's Epiphany decks would have just been the same deck with Hullbreaker Horrors instead.
I think so too, and that's maybe why I was thinking they did this, just so they didn't swap that and then still have because this is a tempo card, but it is a really good tempo card that also replaces itself. You're right, that card is pretty big to learn.
It replaces itself, it can catch you up.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well rounded, and I think the blue decks had to have a lot of wind taken out of their sails, as it were.
Yeah, it just seems weird to me. Yeah. All the cards have been banned out of Standard in the past. That we could go through the list.
Other things that have been hit and now Divide by Zero, but
yeah.
Most of these bans are to fix the currently rancid Standard format.
Yeah, I agree.
And then last but not least of those 3 is Faceless Haven. And like you were saying earlier, this card is basically kind of preemptively banned. It wasn't necessarily broken, but the aggro decks were so good that if you ban Alrund's Epiphany Divide by Zero, the format was immediately going to devolve into mono white v mono green.
Yeah,
because the control decks couldn't keep up with the land being able to just like live through all of the wraths and just like continually push damage.
Yeah. So before we move on to the legacy one underneath this, quick question: what do you think is going to come out on top of these bans with what we currently have? Like something that could have been there but hadn't been able to be made.
Okay, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's not going to matter.
I know, but this is for fun.
Okay. Okay, for funsies.
Yeah, for funsies.
All right, for funsies in Standard, what's going to rise to the top before Kamigawa comes out and maybe mixes up the format? At this point, probably just an aggro deck. I would say the red-green werewolf deck.
Okay.
Shot in the dark. I'm just
So-
looking for an aggro deck, and it could still be like mono green or mono white. Like mono green, no bans. Mono green Sans Faceless Haven is fine because you still have a Seeker's Chariot in its old iteration where it does produce 8 power worth of guys, right?
Yeah. Well, and you still have the green man land. That's pretty.
Yeah, you still have the green man land. You have to figure out if the snow mana is worth it because of Blizzard Brawl. But
would
like you
say-
could,
Yeah. Over just non-snow forest.
well, yes, but then you run into the issue of like Faceless Haven because it's not a snow permanent. You have to
Ooh.
run that deck probably runs like 24 lands. If 4 of them are Faceless Haven, or not Faceless Haven, Lair of the Hydra, then your odds of having 3 snow permanents by turn 3 essentially are lower.
Yeah.
And
Well,
also-
you're removing one from the list that have been going now. So they have one of those hydras already. So you're only adding 3, and they have 2 faceless havens. Most lists do. So you're
Yeah.
removing those 2. So if you added a
That-
4th hydra land, you'd be removing 1 forest.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's just you got to find the balance, and then the number of snow permanents matter. If you're still playing, I cannot remember it off the top of my head. The 2-drop elf that untaps the snow land,
Yes.
that counts as a snow permanent. So you're still running approximately 24 snow permanents, so it might be enough.
Yeah.
It's just kind of it's a small thing. It may not be that big.
Mhm.
So
So
my
we could-
guess moving forward is like werewolves or mono green.
I think this opens up a small opportunity for vampires.
It's possible, yeah.
I don't know if it can beat mono green because mono green is just really good, but I think red black vampires or Mardu vampires has a pretty good chance.
My
getting
biggest
some play.
argument is that, like I said earlier, I didn't think it mattered. These bans certainly matter, but as far as standard goes in general, standard is only good for like, let's say 3 weeks to a month. Because after that, we're going to go into the alchemy format because the
Mhm.
alchemy set by that time will be released. So then you have 4 weeks of a standard format mattering before it doesn't matter until the next set comes out, essentially. Because it's not being supported by Wizards currently in that their large marquee like set championship is alchemy and historic.
Yeah.
So like
It's- yeah, if you're not even having it in your set championship, then
it's wild to me that standard was the backbone of constructed Magic for 20 years. Just the biggest, it was the format. It's the only format that really mattered.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
gone from that to being probably one of the most irrelevant formats they have. Standard and block constructed are almost the same in my eyes at this point. And block constructed doesn't exist in the format anymore. I think that moving forward, with given how design is developing,
Mhm.
that standard won't be as big of an issue as like alchemy and stuff like that. Alchemy, they can rebalance the cards if they overpush them.
Mhm.
And then these cards going into like Pioneer, which I do believe is a format that will be picked up because it's starting to gain more traction again now that more people are starting to play it again. I
Mhm.
believe that like Pioneer can handle the power level of cards that have been released in the last few years because they can if they have to ban stuff, but they don't very often in Pioneer.
Yeah.
But standard is such a hard format to manage because one, the games get played at an astronomically high rate because of Arena and a GGO. They get played a lot faster, so
Yes.
things are found out quicker. Now Wizards can't do anything about that in standard, but in alchemy they can definitely just rebalance it. So that being said, I hope the standard format is good for the 4 weeks that we get to play it, but these bans, they fix a format that not enough people are playing right now, and they came too late. Like Epiphany was a huge problem in everybody knew it was a huge problem, and it didn't get handled. It just didn't. They just let it run rampant over the format, and standard
Yeah.
got to the point now where it was rancid.
Which I almost believe could have been on purpose with the release of Alchemy coming soon, that maybe they wanted less people to be interested in standard, so they would give Alchemy a try.
I really dislike the argument. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I don't like that argument because like it's still Wizards' onus to make money, and if nobody wants to buy the cards to play this format, then they're not just gonna leave it. Like, they need people to spend money.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
where
So
I'm confused.
I can't buy into the we're just gonna let it die.
No, I
Like,
meant just for like that cycle, that ban cycle, where let standard get stale and don't really fix anything that people aren't happy with. When we drop Alchemy, people will jump right to it because they're tired of standard and they still want to play Magic. And then let's ban and try to fix it. And people will play Alchemy and they'll play standard because they need standard to sell new product, right? Like, I just don't know where their real cash is going to be coming from if they're putting out 4 brand new sets a year, but the format that always utilized people buying packs to get cards quick.
you gotta figure Arena means with Arena they're launching more than that, because they launched their 4 main sets, right?
Yeah.
Then a month after those come out, they launch their Alchemy sets that go with those main sets. So but those are kind of like small sets, and usually like 2 to sometimes 3 times a year we get historic drops where they just add stuff to historic.
Yeah.
And we usually get like 1 or 2 sets added onto Arena that weren't there before, that are from the past. See, like Amonkhet when it got added, and Kaladesh when it got added. So like, there's a lot of product release for that.
Sure. But I know that I maybe drop $100 when a new set comes out. If I want to, like, if I don't make it to my local pre-release and I want to do some more pre-releases, I'll spend a little extra or something. But I'm between like $80 to $100 when a new set releases on Arena, just because I enjoy like the pre-release kind of stuff. And then after that, like, I grind out and get all the cards for free. But when I was playing standard in the store, I dropped so much more money on cracking packs.
Yeah.
One, the addiction of cracking packs is real. It does something to spike.
It's that
euphor-
dopamine hit, man. It's just like anytime you refresh your social media page or whatever, it's
It
just
is.
like, ooh, thing.
It's a lottery, and they're hurting themselves by not having any valuable cards for one in the pack or anything other really valuable, because who buys a lottery ticket where the prize is $50 max?
Who spends $5 on a lottery ticket that only wins you $20 tops? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's hurting them in that regard. But I would probably spend hundreds buying 4 or 5 boxes of a set every time it came out. By the time the new set was coming out, between packs or what used to be fat packs, bundles, or whatever they call them now. So I'm spending 1/4 of the amount of money that I used to spend when a new set came out. How can that be good for business if other people are doing something similar, like switching to Arena?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that, if I'm going to be honest to our listeners, given how bad the current Arena economy is, and it is bad, it is absolutely horrendous. I plan on using Arena as a free-to-play client until they fix the economy, because I can't justify telling people, hey, you should definitely be spending money on Arena, when you can't even buy a standard deck. A standard deck, which should cost you less than $200 in paper, you can't buy one of them without spending $250 to $300, and that's one deck. And they want this thing to churn, that's insane to me. Like, it costs so much money to play on Arena. Every other card game like this has a dusting system. They have a better economy, and this one is just like fleecing its players all of the time, and I'm sick of it. Like, I was all for spending a bunch of money when Arena first came out, dumping money into it because I loved it, and now it's just to the point where it's just like, it's not worth it. It is so expensive, and I don't understand why they haven't fixed it, other than the bottom line is they want to make money. I get that they want to make money, but there's a point where you have to just go, look, this is enough. If you aren't going to fix this, and you keep telling your player base that we're definitely going to have this, we're going to have that meeting and we're going to talk about it, and it just keeps getting pushed or ignored. It's like, look, It's time to let you go. I'm not going to spend a dime on your client until you fix it. I love Magic, but if this was any other game that didn't have 20 years of history behind it, no one would be playing it.
Yeah. And we see people quit all the time because I honestly, I don't know how the game lives so long because so many hardcore fans love it, and they spend tons of money on it, but they just
Like-
screw the player base over and over, and not even screw them, just lying to them or giving zero information. And that's just as bad, to where it feels like they don't care about you, even if you've been with the game for 20 years and poured money out of every paycheck every week for 20 years. They're like, yeah, we don't really care if you play anymore.
I mean, yeah, I hate that the cast is kind of devolving into this, where it's just doom and gloom. Like Magic is, in my opinion, one of the greatest games ever created. But like
Sorry,
let's
move on.
The things that have happened in the last 6 years, and I'll get into it a little bit later, have kind of been disheartening. Anyways,
Agreed.
Standard, those are your brands. Let's move into
Okay.
one of my currently favorite formats, Legacy. I'll touch on this quick because I know that of the viewers we have, maybe 6 of them are currently listening to Legacy stuff. But I'll let you know, Ragavan got banned in Legacy because it was part of the Blue Red Delver deck and it was just crushing everybody else. Blue Red Delver was the best deck in the format. It looked like Legacy started to readjust towards the end in the last couple of weeks, where we're getting like 4-color control and stuff to balance out.
Yeah.
But a large amount of the Legacy player base was all for the monkey getting gone.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think this takes the Blue Red Delver deck from the S tier absolute best deck in the format down to, it's still probably just the best deck in the format, but not by a wide gap like it was.
Okay.
Ragavan was in the deck with, DRC, Delver, and Murktide, and then all your Murder's Row blue cards: Brainstorm, Preordain, Expressive Iteration, Lightning Bolt, Force of Will, Force of Negation, Daze.
Yeah.
Like Wasteland, Fetchlands, Volks. I don't think Ragavan needed to be banned, but something needed to be done about the Delver deck in general because it was too good. But I don't envy whoever had to make the decision to kind of like try and fix Legacy. I really do wish that they would just give Legacy back to the players, as it were, and just give us a format panel like they did for Pauper.
Mhm.
Because while I don't think Ragavan needed to go per se, I could definitely see. I'm happy either way. If they didn't ban anything in Legacy, then I would have been upset because something needed to change because the format had gone super rancid. And banning Ragavan seems like the least they could do. I would have liked to see something like possibly Days go,
No.
or maybe touch one of the Sacred Cows in Brainstorm or Ponder.
I think
know
Days is one of the sacred like there are certain
I don't think
cards
Days is one of the Sacred Cows, but like when you give, it's a result of infinite years of Magic, right? Like there's definitely just going to be hyper efficient spells, and like Days is one of them.
Mhm.
Ragavan put that deck in a point where they had 12 hyper efficient 1-drops. DRC, Delver, Ragavan. So 12 is, so your line was always play this 1-drop, Daze your first spell, replay Volk, draw cards via Brainstorm or Ponder, and the game is over because you have more Dazes, more forces, more force negation. So you never really get, your opponent never really gets on the board.
Mhm.
So while I do think something needed to go, I don't even necessarily know if it was Daze. Maybe it should have been one of the other blue cards, but I don't think you can ban Brainstorm because I think it's I think Brainstorm is a Sacred Cow in Legacy. I don't think you can ban it.
Anything in the 90s should like not be touched. If it's made it all the way to 2022 in Legacy from the 90s.
But has it made it that far because it's a staple, or has it made it that far because the format has just been kind of like left behind for so long?
Maybe a little of both, but I say get rid of whatever the new card is that's making that old card too powerful. Because when I think of Legacy, there's a certain set of cards that come to my mind. When I think of Vintage, I think of Power 9, obviously, and then another certain set of cards. And I think once we start messing with what makes the format, then it's just going to turn into, I don't think it'd be as cool.
See, that's kind of why I want a format panel, because I don't think Wizards would ever make the decision to ban the new card until it's out of print. This is a big ban. Do not get me wrong.
Yeah.
Ragavan is still in packs of MH2 that people could buy. So them banning a card in Legacy is kind of a big deal. Granted, it's Legacy, so it's a very small subset of players, and they're not really moving the needle on a format that's already kind of on a sales perspective. Because
you buy
the Legacy
singles
gets,
when you're a
yeah.
Legacy player.
So it's still kind of big that they banned a card that is in packs. But I would have liked to see them do a little bit more, and perhaps give Legacy another look. I think we'll come back to that here in a few months, and maybe then we'll see.
Sure.
But that's about enough on Legacy for now.
Yeah, this first one could probably be quick because everyone just saw that coming. Why suspend stuff?
Okay, so before I get into historic, one quick touch. Modern, for the most part, amazing format. I love it. I think the only thing that they should have done that they haven't yet, and they're going to end up regretting and having to do later, is that Lurrus itself is going to have to be banned. I think it's only a matter of time. That card is becoming super homogenous in the format to where of the three best decks in the format, 2 of them are Lurrus decks. Hammer and Death Shadow. There we go. That's right. Death Shadow are both Lurrus decks, and I think Lurrus is just kind of like pushing the format out right now. And I think we're on the cusp of Modern right now, just getting kind of homogenized and a little stale because of Lurrus. I'm pretty sure in the next few months, Lurrus will end up getting banned, but we'll just have to see what happens. That's all I have to say about Modern for right now.
Probably take a look at that whole mechanic of the companion.
I would love that, but that's a whole other topic.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry.
So, and then moving into historic, Memory Lapse is finally banned. Should have been banned a long time ago. I hate the suspended idea.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it as anything other than banned because I can't play with it.
So we should be getting at least 4 wild cards for these Memory Lapses that have been just sitting in our collections for a while.
Hot dog.
Not much more to say on it than like Memory Lapse was super oppressive, and it definitely should have been banned a while ago. So I'm happy to see that I might be getting wild cards back from that. The other change that we have here is that Teferi Time Raveler has been rebalanced and unbanned.
So this is interesting.
So I'm actually going to. This kind of leads into the alchemy rebalancing.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going to limp those two together. I'm going to go to the next page. Wizards rebalanced a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to scroll to this page really fast to see Teferi, which is the end of the article. Kind of funny. But all right, Teferi got rebalanced, so now it's a 4-drop Planeswalker instead of a 3. It comes in with 1 more loyalty and does everything it did before. Except now it costs 4 instead of 3. I think this puts Teferi back on the menu as far as it's a good control hoser, but it's not oppressive like it was before. I think this card will definitely see play in main and sideboard, but not as much as it was before. It was oppressive. I think it's like a 2, maybe a 3. It just depends on how it goes. I'm actually looking forward to putting a couple copies into the Esper Rights list that I've been playing.
Yeah,
because I wanted something that would make my stuff uncounterable and also like give me a little bit of play for certain hate pieces that I might run into. So big fan of the Teferi rebalance. I'm glad to have it back. I don't think they nerfed this card into oblivion like they do with some of the rebalance stuff. So we'll just have to see.
So what's the new static? It says the new static won't incidentally stop cards.
Where do you see that?
Teferi is less effective at controlling the board, and the new static won't incidentally stop cards like Finale of Promise and Dreadhorde Arcanist from working.
Okay,
your opponent's cast. Oh, because it can't cast spells. Did it say
they can't cast spells during your turn? Before it said Teferi, your opponent can only cast spells at sorcery speed. So like if your opponent played a spell that like for instance, if your opponent played a Cascade spell, they couldn't play the second card.
Okay, well, I mean, like, how's it stopping? So Dreadhorde Arcanist would still be casting something on. Well, it's on your own turn. You attack. So I'm not sure what they mean by that. Then,
like, so if your opponent attacks you with a Dreadhorde Arcanist, they can use the trigger. Before, 3 mana to
Oh,
fairy
gotcha.
said you could
Only
only play
sorcery
stuff at
speed. Yep.
sorcery speed, so like you couldn't do anything. Yeah,
I see,
like
I
it
see.
allows your opponent to play Finale Promise.
So,
That
okay,
is the
that's
change that I didn't hit on at first yet. It does change that. So it
that,
doesn't just completely shut off your opponent's stuff, and it just like allows you to basically play your spells uncounterable.
yeah. So it's really just trying to be what's it, defense grid that can't cast.
Yeah, it's kind of
spells
like a
on.
defense grid, but it can also just answer some problem permanents. I think it's good enough that it'll fill some roles.
Yep, I like it. I like that.
I'm a fan of that. So moving up to the card buffs, as it were,
Mhm.
out of the alchemy stuff, it feels like Wizards really wants people to try and play the dungeon mechanic because a lot of cards got buffed. A lot of cards with the dungeon mechanic on it got buffed, but I'm unclear as to why. The dungeon mechanic wasn't even good in the limited format it was in, which is definitely a red flag for like it's not going to be good in constructed formats. And they buffed some of them to like make things a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to move through the dungeon, but like it's still.
I can tell you what I think. I
Go ahead.
heard. So I heard that the D&D lore and game or whatever, they're gonna make more D&D sets in Magic. So they're probably going to continue to use the mechanics they created for those sets. Like the dungeon one is really the biggest one that like goes alongside D&D. So they might be trying to find ways to make it better for the new set that they're probably, I'd say, if it's not coming out this year, they'd be working on it this year to come out next year. And maybe this is a way to get some information on that. I don't know.
Maybe I'm not
For
really a
sure.
fan of.
But they want to merge the two. Like they put all the Magic characters in that new D&D set and the new D&D book, and people really like that. And they're trying to merge them more than just this, hey, one-time thing. Let's make this an ongoing thing.
Well, then they better come up with some better dungeons.
That could be it too.
There are 3 dungeons, but really there's only 1 dungeon.
So. Yeah, they can do that. They can make more dungeons, and that could make some of these cards really powerful.
Yeah, like this says here, Asarak the Archlich remove the option for your opponent to sacrifice a creature on the attack trigger. And then we'll get into some more of the dungeon cards later. The next one is Assemble the Parts. I actually kind of like this, me personally, because I'm a big Reanimator buff. I love playing Reanimator style decks. I think this might be playable, but I'm still unclear. It is a 4-mana. It's like a 4-mana Reanimate now, but currently the only playable 4-mana Reanimate in Historic and Alchemy, and mostly Historic for that, would just be Unburial Rites. So I'm interested in like playing a couple of these and seeing how they play out, but I'm still skeptical. A lot of these other changes are like really small, like upping a toughness on Blood Rage Alpha, not really that big of a deal, in my opinion. Cloister Gargoyle lowered the cost and then reduced the toughness. It wasn't 03. It wasn't 04.
Yeah.
It wasn't 04.
There has to be a long game here, right?
I think it was mostly just trying to get more people to play with the dungeon mechanic, because as far as I can tell, AFR basically just fell on its face. There really wasn't a lot from AFR that affected anything.
Okay, yeah, that could be true then. Maybe they're like, this is our weakest thing. Let's see if we can get.
I mean, and I know they have the data on this. If they went through and looked at all of the cards that are from AFR that were actually being played,
yeah,
it's got to be next to 0. I can't.
The dragons.
The dragons, but that would be it.
Yeah,
and not even the dragons. Like one of them was being played, right?
Yeah, it's not all of them, but yeah,
like the blue one was the only one that was being played. Like the red one isn't even being played.
The black one I think is actually really good. So with Flash, but it's still, that's not even getting play.
Yeah. Descent comes in untapped now. Elite Week's ultimate is -6 instead of -7, but I still feel like Fate's Reversal, the Find the Path adds 2 of any color. All of these venture into the dungeon cards, just like I don't know why they adjusted them. I don't think they were playable then. They're definitely still not playable in my opinion. And the dungeon mechanics still just isn't good. Maybe there's something like way down the road, but then if that's the case, why not wait until
Because I think
That
they're
set comes
testing it
out
and
to
building it now.
rebalances.
I think they're building it now because they usually do a year before. And so they have all this information on what they're building now right there in front of them, relevant. They can just upgrade all these and maybe save time.
Yeah, I guess. I still think even with all the dungeon adjustments, I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying when you add a whole nother set of dungeons though with all these cards, then we might see some of the reasoning for this.
Yeah, that's true. Puppet Razor up a toughness. Now, I do think this is a significant change in the sense that like going from 3 to 4 is big because a lot of the 2-mana removal spells out of red do usually 3 damage. There are
Okay.
exceptions like Lava Coil that deal 4, so this might be effective.
Sure,
Not
yeah.
100% sure because it does. But I think that this could potentially be a promising upgrade.
Cool.
Moving from that to drop, once again, it's the dungeon mechanics all over again.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't feel like these are effective enough. Divide by 0. This is a big change. So divide by 0 does function the way it did before, but only kind of. You only learn if you bounce or return the spell with something that's something 3 or less. So if it's 4 or greater, all it is a remand / bounce spell.
No,
But 3 or less is what gives you the extra card.
You learn if it's 4 or less with mana value 4 or less.
Oh yeah, sorry, 4 or less.
Yep. But yeah, that is a big change.
I think that's a relatively huge change. I don't know how this works exactly as far as what it's going to do for divide by 0. It might be readjusted again to 3 or less. We'll just have to see.
A lot of these, I think, are just really dependent on what shakes out as being like the most played decks. Like, is 4 a big number that everything is 4 or less anyway, so it really doesn't matter, or is what you want to hit with this a 5? Because then that's when it's going to make a big deal.
Yeah. Fearsome Whelp. Ironically, they went to beginning of upkeep, and I think this card went from busted to unplayable.
I think so too. It still makes it. One of the reasons it was so good is because it forces them to answer that plus answer all your big dragons, and they still have to answer it. But they have more of a chance.
Yeah. The irony being that like they nerfed the Whelp and they also changed Townraiser Tyrant, but the Dragons deck, while at first looked super promising, I even suggested it in the Alchemy Open. As currently, as far as I can tell, the Dragons deck just isn't good anymore. It's not great. But like the quote unquote best deck on the format is either like blue red X, blue white, or the Gruul aggro deck. So like I don't think this nerf needed to happen.
Yeah, well, with so many other cards coming into Alchemy, though, I could see the red deck being, popping back up here. Though
it might. Hullbreaker Horror. The only change that happened here is that you can counter it now.
Yay! Still busted.
It's still definitely very strong. Not where it was before. It's still being able to protect itself. It's kind of obnoxious. So like you can play the horror, and then if you have mana up and they go to kill it, you just respond by using the horror to bounce itself. It should have just said other non-land permanents, so like you could definitely fight it. But that might have been a step too far.
Yeah.
Inquisitor Captain. I am 100% for this change. Added if you cast it. So that means you can't go captain into captain into captain into captain into captain into a clone for a captain into a clone for a captain, which is the most obnoxious thing. Captain is still very good and very playable, but now it is not absurd where you fight this long fight and you get your opponent down to like 1 or 2 cards. They cast a captain and they put 4 creatures into play.
It sounds like more of an error in the original text of the card. I don't think they thought that they would just flip through their deck, putting more captains and clones in.
Yeah, I fully agree. Captain change is definitely a plus. Big fan. Lear got changed to it only works during your turn.
Ooh, that is huge.
That is a big change for Lear. I think it's much more balanced now because before it got to the point where the blue-red decks would just like play this super long game and then play Lear with like 5 extra mana up, and then the game was completely over because it nullified every play your opponent had for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like about it either. If they had enough mana, there's like, well, they have counter spells, kill spells, everything. Like,
Yeah, they had everything. So I'm all for the Lear change. Sanguine Brushstroke, the blood token doesn't. Your opponent doesn't lose the life of the blood token anymore. Unclear as to how good or bad that's going to be. I think the big issue is that Sanguine Brushstroke is still basically just Blood Artist.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see what happens with these black sacrifice decks that have been all over the place. I'm willing to bet that the Blood Artist is still the problem, and that this will end up getting rebalanced to like Sanguine Brushstroke puts a Blood Artist into your hand.
Gotcha.
I feel like that would have been fine, but like as it currently stands, I still think this. I don't think they went far enough with this, but maybe I'm wrong. Town Razor's Tyrant. The biggest change that everybody talked about was that it only hits non-basic lands now instead of any land.
Sucks.
Yes and no. I think this card was a little bit too overpowered to begin with.
But it was so fun.
Well, yeah, because it put your opponent in just an impossible decision, a real Sophie's choice, if you will. But overall, I feel like Tyrant's still just going to do Tyrant things. How many people are playing just mono basic lands, especially now that Faceless Haven is gone? Like the two monocolored decks in the format got kind of the wind taken out of their sails. So Tyrant's still very good. They also capitalize the R. That's the change that everybody was really after. It's the one thing that we wanted.
I like it. It was needed.
Yeah, but other than that, I'm all for a lot of these balance changes. A couple of them are hit or miss. I really don't get the dungeons thing. Like you said, maybe there's something I'm missing, and then there's going to be a D&D set the very end of next year or whatever where it makes a difference. But I can't see the reasoning behind opening up all these dungeon cards now for a set that comes in 2 years. So
I don't think we're missing anything. I just think we don't. They haven't let us know why it's important, and we'll see it sometime down the road.
I think they're really on the please just craft some AFR cards so we don't feel like an entire set was just wasted. But I don't know.
That's possible. But that set actually, so that set sold huge at first, especially because of the low print run issues. So Paper Magic, that set was selling like crazy because all the D&D players that don't even play Magic were buying it just because it was D&D. And then they did their whole secret restock through Amazon and all this stuff, and people got pissed and quit buying it. But at first it came out of the gate strong. The cards just aren't that great.
Yeah, I mean,
it was bought because of the IP, not the actual.
That's true.
Cards.
Could you name for me like the 3 most important cards out of AFR that see standard play?
Dungeon number 1, dungeon number 2, dungeon number 3.
Nailed it. Got it. It's basically the creature lands ranger class, and then it falls off a cliff after that.
You know, that's it, right? Like, what was the wolf? I mean, the 2 mana
werewolf,
green wolf?
pack leader. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So like, the pack leader, and
there was a lot of misses from that set.
So the other enchantments that are like, or what was the green one you just named? Sorry.
Werewolf pack leader.
No, the enchantment, the 2 mana enchantment. That
Ranger class.
Yeah.
Ranger class.
So the other one, the white one in that same kind of cycle, is pretty good. And
the one they rebalanced and still didn't see any play.
Yes. But I mean, like, that card isn't a bad card. It's just not good in the format right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm
Look at
still
Strixhaven. What cards are played in Strixhaven besides the one they just banned?
Expressive Iteration.
Okay, so there's one card from Expressive Iteration, or one card from
the entire set.
One card from Dungeons, and then everything else is the other sets. They've just had 2 huge misses.
Yeah. Expressive Iteration, Prismari Command, nothing.
No wonder Standard feels stale. It's been the same 3 sets for years.
I wish I could argue with you, but I can't. Yeah.
Everybody wanted Throne of Eldraine gone. Can't wait till Throne rotates. Standard's going to be great. It rotated.
Well, yeah, they wanted Throne gone, but they also didn't want just 2 completely blank sets.
Yeah, they got scared, man. You could tell after Throne came out.
They had to. They didn't want another Mirrodin where the power level was so obscenely high, followed by a Kamigawa set where the power level was 0, and like all of Magic essentially fell off.
Yeah, like it's tough. I know it's tough on them, so I don't want to just judge them and be like, oh, they just keep messing up. Like it's
One
hard
thing,
to.
yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's hard to keep this balance. So I do give them some credit because I know they're trying.
One thing that I would like to mention is they didn't touch Key to the Archive.
Oh yeah,
which is just obnoxious to me. It's like, come on. It's the one card out of all the cards that came from the Alchemy set. The card that was complained about the most was
the one that
Key to
makes
the
your eye
Archive. And
twitch.
just like, well, balancing this card is hard. We're not touching it. Screw it. So I don't know. Key is still going to end up being a problem, and I think it'll end up being fixed later, but we'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll see. It might be like Elrond's Epiphany. They just let it ride for a couple years and then like.
Last thing I have to say on Alchemy changes is that this is my plea to the odds of anybody hearing this from Wizards are super low, but it's still they're not zero. Please stop putting the rebalanced versions of cards into Historic. If you want to introduce Alchemy cards into Historic, fine, but stop nerfing cards and then putting them into Historic. I would much rather Historic just be the live printings of whatever these cards are. I hate the rebalances in Historic. It's obnoxious.
Yeah, they're just putting cards in that nobody's really going to play them either, too, right? Because Historic's more powerful.
Yeah. That wraps up that section as far as things go, and then the next section that we're going to talk about is pretty somber, and I might get a little heated when I'm talking about it. I've mostly vented to my friends about it recently, so that should be fine, but I would like to talk about the SCG announces forthcoming content changes. This, for me, is the end of an era. Basically, what SCG did was they said, look, as far as competitive play goes, content creation, just there isn't money for it for competitive level content. So like people that were prepping for tournaments, i.e. Corey Baumeister, Ross Merriam, Todd Anderson, Dominic Harvey, Ari Lax, Jerry Thompson, Brad Nelson, Paulo Vitor Damarosa, and a slew of other people that wrote for WOTC that were writing basically tournament grinder Magic articles have all been let go. The TLDR in the article is that Star City just doesn't feel it's profitable to have this stuff, so they let all of those writers go. There's still going to be a handful of people, but it's going to move into more casual content. And as far as my belief is that like this is, it's not necessarily SCG's fault. While it hurts that they made this decision, because I grew up with a lot of these guys. I knew Cedric, I knew Jerry. I met Brad and Todd a couple of times. Like it hurts to see this, given what's happened with OP in the last few years, where it's basically just been ignored, and COVID has something to do with that for certain. Like not being able to have live tournaments is a thing, but I felt like we were coming out of that.
So did I.
And
that's why this seems like a very weird timing for this decision to be made. Like when you make this decision almost 2 whole years ago, really. So
yeah, but basically Cedric left, and it kind of reads like Cedric left and he was what was holding this together, so they were going to let their other writers go, but this is by no means Cedric's fault. And I appreciate absolutely everything Cedric has done for Magic. Like, think about where we were and where we are now. He set the gold standard for coverage and articles and everything. I cannot thank him enough. And if he ever gets a chance to hear this, absolutely thank you for all the work you've done for Magic. You have touched so many lives and you've done a lot for it. Thank you.
Is he leaving
That-
Magic completely? I guess I don't know the full story here. Like,
He's not leaving Magic completely. He doesn't work for Star City anymore. There
well, it
is
says-
no coverage
what are
team
his
for Star City.
personal passion? Like, is he going to play NBA Jam Live professionally now?
No, he was basically Star City was going in one direction, and Cedric didn't agree with it, so he left.
Oh, okay. I just
Patrick
didn't-
left, and then like literally, because we talked about this a little while ago, literally a few weeks later, which is now, uh, basically all of the tournament grinders and content producers for tournament Magic on Star City are gone. Star City is basically going to become a casual and commander based
like-
content site. They said that there will be tournament content on their site for a while, but like I don't understand how if they're gonna like have it.
So they go to Channel Fireball or someone else new.
Channel Fireball, TCG, hopefully all of these guys who are some of the smartest people that I've ever met come together and form a content model. Hopefully they can do something with like MTG Melee, or I hope they all land on their feet somewhere, because some of these guys they've brought me hours, days, weeks, months worth of content and entertainment, and I've been there. I've loved watching these players grow. I loved watching Jerry, because I knew Jerry before everybody knew Jerry, because he used to play in Indy. Watching Jerry grow and change as a person has been amazing.
What a lot of people don't know too is this started with just a group of guys that lived in Roanoke, Virginia, and then grew to people moving there to be a part of this group.
Yeah.
And so it's really like cool to see that it grew to this from like that initial just like hometown kind of group of guys.
As far as why it's like this is gonna be kind of like my rant thing. This is just WOTC completely shitting the bed on everything organized play for the last 2 years. Just absolutely rancid formats, horrible and botched rollouts of MPL, making people watch matches for formats that were completely solved or dead. Pro tours or whatever, your mythic championships or whatever the hell you want to call them, coming at the end of release seasons before a new set comes out. So like, even if somebody broke it and found a cool deck, which couldn't happen because by this time it all been boiled down and solved, like why would anybody buy into those formats? Because literally weeks after that, like 2 weeks after that, a new set comes out. So that's all pointless. It just, I cannot understand how a company as big as this could consistently drop the ball on what to be doing. Like promotion, they left billions of dollars on the floor. And I say that with a B. And I know that's a lot of money. It sounds like I'm just like falling off the head about how much more product would have been moved if people would have just like,
easy answer.
New set. Let's just go buy a bunch of it now because I want to get these cards instead of sets out. Like I know that they've had their most profitable years, but that's just how much of that is just like them being predatory with their arena models. And
well, think about it this way: when a new president comes, how much of his success is from what the previous president worked so hard for so many years to create? So everything could have been worked to create this for so many years, and it's going to take a while for someone to really hurt it. But I feel like they're starting to really hurt it.
All right. I know this isn't going to put me in Wizards' good graces, but they're probably going to hear this anyways. Fuck Chris Cox. That guy came in to run Wizards as a CEO about 6 years ago, and that's when everything just started taking a shit. It's when it felt like Magic was no longer a game that they were trying to grow and develop and make, while embracing the community. It just felt like it's been this non-stop hollowing of everything that Magic was for the last 20 years.
So
that's turned it into a giant fucking cash grab.
So this is a strategy that some CEOs will use when they
I understand it's short-term games.
Yes,
because that's what happened. He did phenomenal
happy.
Growth, short-term gains, make the stockholders happy, and now he's the CEO of Hasbro. But like, he left what is basically a dumpster fire behind. I'm so sick of this shit happening, and like I
Oh,
was
that's what they all
so
do.
hopeful
It happened
when
to Gillette.
Hasbro took over Wizards. I was so excited. They're like, yes, we have big backing. The game is going to grow, and it's going to be the biggest it's ever been. And while that kind of is true in the sense that, yeah, they've sold more products than anything else, that's the only thing that they've done.
Yeah, I
Because
want Disney
the
to buy
MPL
Wizards.
was the MPL was a complete and utter flop. OP has been a nonstop rolling joke for years. Like, timed and planned rollouts have been a joke. The Pro Tour scheduling has been a joke.
Yeah.
I just, I'm sickened by it, and it really upsets me. So at this point, as far as, sorry, one more thing. At this point, as far as like tournament Magic goes, the last few series that have any chance of saving it, like NRG, I hope NRG just explodes. They have a tournament series that they're working on right now that they've been doing, and NRG is mostly a Midwest thing. And I hope it inspires other people to start tournament series, because right now it's not looking good for tournament players in general, but we'll see.
That's true. I just this is disheartening, as it makes me feel like Star City, their whole tour isn't going to come back. And I thought with the cons, that was
Nah, they're
like,
going to the con model.
I thought
which
that was
is
like the
kinda meh.
peak though of just testing the waters to be able to come back with the tour. And then this announcement kind of lets me know, like, we have cons this year. We may not have them again, or we may just have that.
I think they'll still continue to have cons, but
Yeah.
as far as organized play goes, I don't know where it lies at this point.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
Before all
we're
this
still going to
happened,
continue to bring you constructed content and arena content and stuff like that. We're not going anywhere. I absolutely love Magic and love everything about it. It just hurts that like the thing that was the backbone of the game for literally 20 years, what built the game up to what it is today, is now just being left on the cutting room floor, essentially. And it really is the end of that era. And I don't know what that means for Magic. And people are still going to play Magic. It's not going to die. It's never going to die, I don't think.
no.
But this part of Magic going away, it hurts me a lot personally, because, and it's not just the friends I made, but like literally, this is what the game was. So I don't understand.
Yeah, I used to watch coverage every Sunday like it was football.
Yeah,
I looked forward to the top 8. I turned on Twitch. I didn't turn on ESPN, but that's been gone for a long time. And this just sucks, because I thought we were getting close to getting that back, and I really looked forward to that. I don't know. It's making a way for something new, and it could be something even better. It could be some other team of people pulling together and just creating something amazing and doing it correctly. I don't think Star City Games did it wrong. I think they did it right. Somebody that doesn't rely on WOTC, maybe.
help us, Huey Jensen. You're our only hope.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm hoping that
we know
Huey,
he loves tournaments and paper Magic.
he absolutely does. I'm just hoping that Huey isn't handcuffed by higher ups, and that he is allowed to basically, for better or worse, save organized play. Because right now it hurts that it's being treated the way it is right now and abandoned. And I know that COVID has a huge part to do with it, because we can't have large gatherings.
There's far too
that.
many risks to take. All the cities have different mandates depending on whether you need a card to get into a restaurant or not. Like, I could not imagine trying to schedule a nationwide tour of any kind, like a concert, a show, a play, anything, and try to guess at how many things we're going to have to cancel and what our losses are going to be and what we need to make to offset those losses.
Oh, I understand that. But
It's a
if
nightmare right
Wizards
now.
doesn't, if Wizards wants this part of Magic to be, then at least be transparent enough to come out and go, look, we are building something. We're going to build an organized play system. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have that. But right now we can't because of COVID. That would be fine. But like being dead silent on it and just watching as all of this falls apart is really heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And to my friends that worked for Star City, thank you guys so much. Todd, Ross, Jerry, Brad, PV, you are all inspirations, and I wouldn't be anywhere I am today if it wasn't for you guys paving the way for us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. And if I wish they would say something, I wish they would just say, hey, COVID's stopping us from really making any decisions, but we're working on what we know we can work on, revamping a whole new structure, new way to do organized play. And when we can come back, we're going to come back stronger than ever.
That would be great.
But you know, they're WOTC. They don't say things like that. They don't ever want to promise or say anything because
Stone silent. Sorry for
in
your
a way,
loss. Here's a new
every
Secret
little
Lair.
thing, every single word they say though, sometimes just completely blows up in their face. Like especially with the blogatog, like the poor man says one thing and then it blows up on the internet because he used a specific word. And like, I don't blame them for being secretive sometimes, but they could give us a little.
There are times for transparency, and there are times where I can understand just being stone silent on it. But this time is where you guys, Wizards, needs to step up and be transparent and talk to your players, because you're losing such a massive portion.
It's a countrywide problem though.
What made Wizards great?
All companies are having this problem. All companies are losing the transparency with inside the organization, causing people to leave. They're losing the transparency with their clients, with their customers, not getting enough messages out fast enough. Everyone is struggling so hard on the internal organization with, you know, the Fed increasing taxes and all the inflation rates and the looming recession that people, I think, are stepping back too much for too long, and they're hurting their brand and they're hurting their customers because they're not sharing even little bits of information or I guess opinions on things. Like you don't have to say for sure this will happen, but you can say this is the direction we're trying to take. We understand things could change this, but you're still saying something.
Yeah, it would be nice to give us that glimmer of hope, but I guess that about does it for the cast this week.
We should have started with this because we're ending on something very depressing.
Well, I mean, and that's what I'm trying to wrap up this something a little bit brighter.
Right.
I'm a big fan of some of the changes in Alchemy, and I'm looking forward to like trying out a few things and seeing where that goes. I still plan on playing in the Star City event in March. I'm thinking about maybe going to an NRG event in February. Undecided on that one yet. I would like to see Tournament Magic come back if I can, but this it's not like Magic's dying, so that's not a thing. It's more or less that we're just kind of in this holding pattern, and I would like to see something change because right now we could use a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess in higher or better news, kind of on the upside, to wherever these guys go, support them. They were awesome for Magic, and they're going to be awesome at whatever they're doing next. Hopefully it's something that the public can see. Like I would love to see Cedric still I don't know, announcing, I guess, what would you call what he did?
Coverage.
Yeah, coverage of any sort. I know he loves games in general, so if he's doing coverage of another game, I would still watch it just for Cedric, but that's because he was a great personality and he's a good soul, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can still catch him on his streams. A lot of these guys are streaming. I would like to see, and I firmly believe that something is in the works, but we'll just have to see where that goes from here. So,
yeah, yep. Well, that's it for me.
Yeah, I'm out too.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, check out the audio cast, check out the YouTube. Any support is very much appreciated. And for the people who have continued to support us this far, we thank you. And we will talk to you next week.
All right. Take it easy, y'all.